targets. What are you receiving from goals and targets?
Only focus on the past.
Yep, cool. No focusing on the past. What else?
No goals.
No goal is too silly. What else?
You need to have monthly meetings with your family about your goals.
Need to have monthly meetings. Don't we have a monthly meeting about our goals and our money? Huh? But if you're single, do it with Aaron. If you're single, do it with me. Do it with Yaya. Do it with somebody. Do it with somebody that will hold you accountable. Right? So the biggest thing I'm learning too, I in my system I call targets milestones. But I like targets better because it has more of like a right? But goals are out there, targets or checkpoints, you can call them, whatever they are. But you have to have goals. Right? The number one thing that when I was 17 years old, I used to listen to the Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, right? And you were here when we listened to it. Maybe not. You were here when we played like the whole 30-minute thing. I'm not gonna play it, but essentially Earl Nightingale said that the reason that most people are not successful is because they don't have goals. It's because they don't have goals, right? You have to have a goal. You have to know where you're going. Right, there's a reason that if you ask every 25-year-old out on the street if they want to be successful, they're going to tell you that they do. Everyone wants to be successful. But the reason that people aren't successful is because they have a lack of goals, a lack of targets. They don't know where they're going, right? And if you put a ship, not that ship, but if you put a ship out in the water and you don't have a target, most likely it's going to just float around in sea and it's not going to know where to go, right? If you are an airplane pilot, you have to know exactly where you're going to go. You know exactly where you're going. You know what's going on with the wind. You know what's going on with the weather. You know what's going to come into your way. You know where the other planes are. You have to operate your life like that. You have to operate your life like that. And so if you're not writing your goals down every single day, if you're not writing them in the morning, you're not writing them down at night. I always write them down in the morning. I've started implementing them, writing them down at night, which I didn't do before I learned this from Grant. And again, for me, if somebody has more money than me, has more success than me, and they have, if they have something that I want, I'm going to do what they do and say what they say so I can eventually get what they have. And I've always followed that. And I learned that when I was in 17 in a network marketing business. And last night I went and smoked a cigar with one of my boys who I know from then, and we saw on the side of the street last week. And he was like, let's grab a cigar and talk. But the goal has to be something that is, in the 10X rule, he said, something just beyond your reach, right? So for some of you guys, you want goals that are, I don't want to say too far beyond your reach, but Grant Cardone in the Money and Finance webinar, he says that if you've never, he has the middle class, the low, mid, the poverty, upper mid, and then the rich or the upper class. This is 350K plus. This is 120 to 350. This is 70 to 120. This is 30 to 70, and this is less than 30K. And so he said, if you've never made more than this, make this your goal. You have to have a goal that's just beyond your reach. Because what happens often is that if you're not 10xing your actions, if you continue to do the same thing and you don't change the way that you're living, then it sounds nice to say I want to make $350,000 a year, but if you don't change your action, it's not going to change. And I'm not telling you to make your goals realistic. They shouldn't be realistic. But if it's going to scare you, then it has to be something that you can attain, and that can be a target or a milestone on your way to something bigger. All right, so my biggest goal right now is to assist you guys with helping you hit your goals. My favorite thing about being CC'd on these targets is that, see, he has got big goals right now. See, when you're a kid, you will do whatever it takes to get what you want. You will do whatever it takes. Jim Rohn always talks about having a childlike curiosity. All right, we talk about like we don't want to be salespeople, and yet every single person, you have a kid and they want an ice cream cone, and mom, can I have ice cream? They say, no, mom, can I have ice cream? No, mom, can I have ice cream? And you turn around and they're licking an ice cream cone. Like, kids will always go get what they want because they haven't been told no enough. They haven't been conditioned to have small goals. They haven't been pushed down by the educational system. So you have to have goals and then targets And I love that you guys are seeing me on all of these, because next week I'm going to start meeting with you guys once a quarter. We used to do it once a week, then it was once a month, now it's once a quarter, because we've delegated some of that on to the sales leaders. But next week I'm going to meet with all of you guys on Monday. You can set that up? That's what you're writing down? Cool. Meet with all of you guys on Monday, and I want to take on the role of assisting you with getting to your goals. That's what I want to do, right? Casey sent me her goals last night. My responsibility as a leader is to help her, and empower her to get to where she wants to be. So if your goal, I'm just going to use easy numbers, is $250,000 a year, which some of it is for you guys, you gotta know what that entails. You gotta be able to break that down in a sense of saying, I need to make $20,000 a month. I need to make $5K a week, every single week. If I'm, if $5,000 a week, I need to put in my pocket $5,000 a week. So some of you guys, this is the formula. This is the formula for how to make $250,000 in a year, which is a little over $20,000 a month, which is about $5,000 a week if you average it out. And if you would, 76.60 in premium, if you're doing what? If you're not splitting.
That's just, yeah.
That's just you, so it'd be double, right? Now focus, let's go. I like to lowball things. So let's say you're already maxed out on your agent bonus. Let's say that everything that you have is already done, and you're gonna actually put in your pocket after FICA's taken out. So you're talking about like 50%, let's call it. It's 55%, it's 7.65% for FICA, which is like 51, 52%. We're just gonna call it 50%, because it's always better to lower everything. So if you're gonna get paid at 50%, you need FYC equals 50%. That means you need to do 10K in annual premium per week paid out, okay? This is just how the numbers work. And if you're splitting business, which you typically should be at most points in the career, you should be splitting business at most points, especially for the new, especially if you're doing the beginning. If you're in the beginning, you have to be splitting. And then if you're a closer, most of the time you're splitting other people's business. Then now we have the infinite banking people that we're going to be splitting business with too. And again, it's better to focus on getting 50% of 50% than setting goals that are bigger. So now you say, okay, great. Well, let's now multiply this by 2, because we're only getting 50%. So we need to do 20,000 in annual premium per week. 20,000 in annual premium per week per person, if that's what you want to do. Now the question becomes, well, how the heck does that happen? Well, you have a couple options. Let's now divide that by 12, and whatever that is, 20,000 divided by 12 is going to be what, Javi? Like 15, 16? 1666 for monthly premium. So you can either have one of 1666 monthly premium. It's really 1667, right? 1667 monthly premium. I don't like writing 3 6s. 1667 monthly premium. You could have 2 at 835 in monthly premium. You can have 3 times 600-ish or whatever that is, 590 in monthly premium. You can have 4 at 418 in monthly premium. You can have 5 at 350-ish monthly premium, or you can have 6 at 290-ish in monthly premium. This is the formula for how to make this happen. Now, again, that's just a target. So you need to now, what's the action for how to make that happen? So this is, you're working Monday through Saturday, and every single day you close a policy. This is Monday through Friday, every day you close a policy. This is 4 policies in a week, 3 policies a week, 2 policies a week, and 1 bigger policy every single week. 1 bigger policy every single week. Now with where we're at right now, as of last week, our average was about $1,200 in monthly premium. Before that, we were averaging about $500, $600 in monthly premium. So realistically, this is the cutoff. We don't really, we're stopped. We've doubled since we started Cardone U. We've doubled the average monthly premium per policy. So just by doing that and then having conversations with Casey, Margarita, and Yaritza, our goal is to increase our level of clientele. Like in the beginning, talking to family, friends, putting in the time with your leader, like working with Nick, working with Christian, working with you, working with everybody. I mean, everybody starts off friends and family, and it puts A, gets your name out there about what you do, and it B, shows them the process of the presentation. That's, as a leader, you're going to put the time in with your people so that you can earn the respect of the newer agents. That's how we operate. And so by doing that, you're now showing them the ropes. Now, it might be the case that, yeah, you want to, beside immediate family and friends, right? After that, your family, friends, you personally might only have a couple $100s a month. That's cool. But like outside of that, now when you're focused on who you're working with, we want to work with people that have higher premiums, right? We want to work with business owners. We want to work with real estate investors. We want to work with athletes. We want to work with high-level executives of different firms. And as we start doing more marketing, getting our name out there, that's who we're targeting, right? We're targeting all the people that are in this mindset and in this experience to help grow, create more wealth for the future. And so now the question becomes, well, how do you do this? So let's just use the number 3, because again, we want to highball everything. Highball the action and lowball the result. All right, so if we want to close 3, now you take this. This is how I set goals, by the way. Now you want to close 3 policies a week, right? And if your closing ratio, let's just call it 30%. That means you need to do 10 scene appointments a week. Right, is that accurate, Casey? About 30% closing, right? If you're good, right, you might need to do more than that. Sales is always equated to baseball, right? If you're like, you close like 10%. If you're good, you'll close 20%. And if you're an all-star, you'll close 300, right? Or 30%. And so this is how you have to do your numbers. And if you're, whatever 3 divided by, you might have to do 10 to 15 if you're at, let's call it 20 to 30%. And again, let's lowball it. Let's say you're only closing 20%. So now, and to multiply, to divide something by 20%, you have to just, it's the same as multiplying it by 5. Okay, because 20 is 1/5 of 100. So therefore, you can multiply a number by 5 to get the 20% of that. So now let's say you have to do 15 scene appointments a week. Bless you. And let's say you're not counting Saturdays, because Saturdays are like a let me get ahead day. So you divide this by 5 days a week. You need to be seeing 3 appointments a day. You need to be seeing 3 appointments a day. Now, for the people that right now are setting appointments, what would be your average set to scene ratio, would you say?
10.
10 to 1?
No, 10%.
10%? What about you? 10 to 20%? 50%? It should be at least 50%. And if you're cold calling, it might be less. I have the cementing process from Dustin that's going to help us get more percentage from set to scene. But if you're doing more high qualified people and you're actually also talking to people that you know, there's a much higher percentage of them showing up. But again, just to lowball, let's say that you are cold calling and you are only showing up 10%. By the way, if that's your ratio, then I would maybe take a step back and see how can I increase this. Whether you change the list of people that you're talking to, whether you go out and network more and call more people in your phone, there's a large probability that cold calling will lead to less people showing up, and a high probability that if you actually talk to people that like, trust, and respect you, they'll show up. It's just the way that it is. I agree, it should be about 50, but let's just call it 10. So divided by 10% is the same thing as multiplying it by 10. So therefore, you need to have 30 set per day. And you're like, how the heck can that happen? Well, we're talking about 10xing what we think we should do. You're talking about now, how do you set 30 appointments a day? Well, let's say there's 3 people that you're setting appointments with: Aaron, Margarita, and Casey. Boom, boom, boom. 10, 10, 10. If they're all half an hour, right, to multiply by a half, that's 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours. And if you're just setting, I would be totally selfish. If you're setting up appointments, I would be completely selfish and schedule 5 hours of time on every single person's calendar, because that is how you can duplicate yourself. You don't necessarily have to even be on the call, and schedule appointments with every single person. Now, Casey would be like, whoa, Josh, slow down. I don't want to do 5 hours and only have one person show up. But that's going to be our responsibility to improve the level of people that we're talking to. But this, if you're setting up appointments, this is what you have to do every single day to make that happen, to make this happen. I mean, these are just the numbers. And we're talking about splitting every single policy. We're talking about doing 3 policies a week at $590 monthly premium. We're talking about having a 20% closing ratio instead of 30. We're talking about having 10% of people show up. So even if you're half wrong, if we're half wrong, meaning we're due twice as good, you're making $500,000. Does that make sense? If you have 20 people show up, 20% of people instead of 10%, you now make $500,000 instead of $250,000. But if that's really your number, then this is what has to be done. And if this is our ballpark and this is what's our standard, then you have to have 30 set a day. Now the question becomes, how many people do you have to talk to have 30 set a day? Just forget about 30. Scary number. How many people do you have to talk to set one appointment? How many contacts? 10 contacts. So 10 contacts equals 1 set. Again, these are cold calling numbers, but if we have qualified people, how many people do you have to talk to set one appointment? 5. Cool. So everything doubles when you're talking to warm people, at least. That's why it's so important to do what we're going to do at our next session, which is going to be about branding and growing and getting your name out there. But so let's just say it's 10 contacts to 1 set. That means you have 300 contacts a day equals 30 set per day, which equals 3 seen per day, which equals 15 seen per week, which equals 3 policies. Now, one of the greatest things that I'm learning right now, I just finished the 10X rule. You have to check your facts. You have to check where you're at. So my question is the action of 30 contacts a day 10X what we talk about?
Yeah.
It is, right? It's actually 15X what we talk about. So if your goal is 20 contacts a day, and if you're expecting to do 20 contacts a day, just based on these numbers, that means based on exactly these numbers, you're splitting business, you're not getting the agent bonus, you're doing 3 policies a week, you're only 20% are getting closed, only 10% are showing up, and you have to talk to 10 people to set 1 appointment. If all these numbers hold true as constant, then if you do 20 contacts a day, you're gonna make $20,000 in a year. Huh? How? A year. If you divide all these if this is our focus, if 30 contacts a day leads to 30 set a day, leads to 3 seen a day, leads to 15 seen a week, leads to 3 closed at $590 monthly premium, which equals $20,000 annual premium a week, which divided by 2 and divided by 2 again equals $5,000 a week in commission. If you do 30 contacts a day, which is 10x less action, then therefore you should have 10x less result. So some people are curious as to why they're not making any money. This would be why. And so then the question becomes, how can you make each of these things better in your favor? One would be getting out there more and talking to people. How do you improve this? Warm versus cold for sure. How do you improve this? Pre-qualifying people. How do you improve this? Work with the closers more and each of them making sure that they're accountable for improving their own closing techniques. Hey Casey, since you're closing my policies right now, are you reading that closer survival guide? I just want to make sure. All right, cool. Sounds good. I mean, you laugh, but I'm serious. Like if you want to make sure that this is what's going on, then you got to hold each other accountable. And if that's the case, then we got to do 3 policies a week. And now if you add in all the numbers, if you actually do get the agent bonus and you do write your own policies and you close 1 instead of 3 and you close 30% instead of 20% and 5 show up instead of 20% or 50% show up instead of 10%, all of these numbers, that's how you make $500,000 to $1 million a year, is you improve all of these factors. Does that make sense? So I believe that this is possible, to talk to 300 people a day. It is. How long does it take you to talk to 20 people with your cold calling if you don't stop?
Like an hour.
An hour to talk to 20 people? So therefore, based on these numbers, 1 hour equals 20 contacts. So what equals 300 contacts? 15 hours. You're like, well, how the heck could I work 15 hours? I promise you can work 15 hours. I promise you can work 15 hours. And if you think you can't, then do it. Ken, what did Ken say? Ken, the guy, IBC practitioner guy that we're learning from, where did he start working when he was our age? No, the phone, Apple.
Oh, yeah.
He worked at Apple. He was he was the 124th employee of Apple. And Steve Jobs said, if you work with me, you have to work how many hours a day? He said 16 hours a day. If you don't want to work 16 hours a day, get out. We will work 16 hours a day every single day. That's what he said. That's what they did. Is that sustainable? I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. They became Apple. Steve Jobs worked 16 hours a day. So what 16 hours would you work every day? If you're in the MC business, can you make phone calls at midnight? Why not? What if you have West Coast leads, can't you? But you could. What would be a better use of your time? Sleeping? It depends. How long are you sleeping for? 6 hours. So can you sleep from 12 to 6?
Yeah.
You could. Right? So like it's just about how bad you really want it. It's just about how bad you want it. I'm not saying that everybody should work 15 hours a day. I'm just saying, is it possible? Have other people done it? If other people have done it, could you do it? Yes. All right, so like, yes, I used to stay at the office till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night and ask for West Coast leads. You can just cold call people that live in California at 8 o'clock at night their time, and it would be 11 o'clock our time. That's fine. You could do that if you really wanted to do this. So if you work till 11 p.m., 15 hours would be 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. I know that when Patrick Bet-David started PHP, that's what he said his schedule was. I know that in the $250,000 sales schedule in Sell or Be Sold, Grant Cardone says he gets to the office every day at 8 o'clock and he didn't leave until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm just saying it's possible. If this is the formula for like, if you are only cold calling and people aren't showing up and you got to talk to this many people a day and only 1 out of 10 are showing up and only 2 out of 10 are getting closed and you're splitting business and you're not getting a bonus and all of the bad things have to happen, if all of the worst case, this is the worst case scenario, if all the worst case scenarios are true for you, then those are the hours you got to work. Those are the hours you got to work. Is that possible? Absolutely. You go sleep from 12 to 6 and you wake up and go for a run from 6:30 to 7. You go home, take a shower and get ready from 7 to 7:30 and you get to the office from 7:30 to 8. It's possible. You wake up from 6 to 6:30. Wake up, exercise, shower, go. If that's all you did every single day, I promise you would make over $500,000 because only one of these things has to change in your favor for that to double. And I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm not making a suggestion, but I'm just showing you what's actually required using the 10x rule if you wanted to make $250,000 a year. Pretty much guaranteed. This is like guaranteed. That means that you're talking to 300 people a day. 10 of those people aren't showing, 1 out of 10 actually shows up. You're scheduling 5 appointments, 5 hours of appointments on Aaron's schedule, Casey's schedule, Ed Margarita's schedule, and you don't stop all day long, until this happens. It just depends what you want to do. I've done this. I did this at Lee's. I did this from 2016 to 2021. I did that schedule for 5 years straight. 3 years at Lee's, 3.5 years at Lee's, and 1.5 years in the MCA business. That's what I did every single day. That's what Cardone did when he was doing car sales. That's what Patrick Bet-David did when he started PHP. That's what Steve Jobs did when he started Apple. You don't have to be those guys. I want to be those guys. I want to be like them. I have conversations with her. I stopped coming in at 8:30 and I started leaving at 7:45 because I'm like, I can do this. Last night I was at the cigar lounge till 9-ish, 9 whatever. I can put 2 more hours of work in. I could. I'm selling myself short. If I look in the mirror and say that I worked my frickin' butt off yesterday, the answer is I could have worked harder. And some people might think that this is ridiculous, but again, this is what those guys did. And they're all, Patrick's worth $500 million. Cardone's worth a couple billion. Steve Jobs is not alive, but he's worth hundreds of billions if in his company today. This is just what's required. Elon Musk and his brother slept in their office when they started PayPal. Bill Gates and Steve Wozniak, Bill Gates and they slept in their dorm room while they were creating Microsoft. Like, this is what they do. You don't have to do that, but this is just what they do. This is a guaranteed way to make $250,000. If you came in every day and worked from 8 to 11 and just cold called all day long, I would guarantee you, if you didn't hit 250, I'd pay you the difference. Because I know that this would happen. That's just what's possible. Can you take a picture of this actually? Now, if you said, Josh, I've never made 6 figures, I'm cool with this. If you're cool with half of it, what do you have to do? All of this would hold true, but you could just change this one thing. 150 contacts a day instead of 300 contacts a day. And you could probably do this. Instead of working 15 hours, you could work 8 hours. And that would probably be where you would be. Like, if this is what you do, if you talk to 150 people a day and you work from 10 to 6, because we got our Cardone and the role play in the morning, that's probably, I'd throw my money on you making 125 grand a year. Which could be cool for you. It might be the most that you've ever made. If that's what you've made, this is what I would do from 10 to 6. That's literally that's what I would do when I first started. I made $139,000 in 2021. And then I made $593,000 in 2022 because I didn't stop doing the 12, at least 12 hours a day type of thing. And if you just start building that habit, things would change for you. And it's okay with me. I'm not forcing you to work 15 hours a day, but I want you to be realistic with your goals. And if you start improving your warm market and you start networking more and you start branding yourself more and you start growing yourself more and you start talking to more people, if you let go of the fear of talking to your people in your warm market, I promise you they're going to show up more. And you already have like, trust, and respect with them. So you don't have to build credibility with them per se. So you're already like halfway across the finish line. Then you just have to add value to whatever they're doing and provide that value in the product and service. And therefore, if you're adding value, our form of exchange of value is called money. And therefore, if you add value, they'll give you value. You give them a product or service, they'll give you money. That's what the purpose of money is. Money is just simply value. And this is what has to happen for you to really hit your goals. It just sounds nice to say, like, I want to make 6 figures. Does that make sense? Again, that's the formula. You want to make 125K? Talk to 150 cold people a day. And again, if you're doing warm, you might be able to cut that number in half or more. But that's what's required. That's the and then the action. All that matters is this. This all is just the math of it. This is what you have to learn to do then. Right? We're talking about focus a lot recently. This is all that you have to do. You don't have to think about any of this stuff. You don't have to worry about how it's going to play out. You don't have to do any of this stuff, do any of the math. I just did it all for you. But this is the simplicity of success. For every 125K in income, you have to talk to about 150 cold or 75 warm. For every 250K in income, you got to talk to about 300 cold and 150 warm. For every 500K in income that you want to make, you got to talk to about 600 cold and 300 warm. Now at this level, that's not really possible time-wise in the day, is it? So this is, once you hit this level, what do you have to do? Market. But what's a yes, absolutely. And what? Huh? Be a closer so that what can happen? Other people are doing what? This. For who? You. That's when you bring people in. This is when you build a team. And on our compensation level, $500,000 in paid premium is when you can be an agency director. When you can run the office without somebody else being there. But that's, if I didn't do what I did last year financially, they wouldn't have brought me on to do this. So you have to be able to, this is the big, what's the D word that I like? This is at the point that you have to start what? No. Delegating. This is when you delegate. And typically, what do you have to exchange in order to delegate? Money. You have to delegate. That's when you start becoming a business owner. That's when you start delegating. That's when you start becoming a business owner. And even if you're setting up appointments, you can delegate the close and you can just all day long. Schedule appointments for her, schedule appointments for her, schedule appointments for her, schedule appointments for me. Hey, yeah. Are you open? I already booked up Josh, Aaron, Margarita, and Casey's schedule for next Thursday at 4 o'clock. Can you please run an appointment for me? Like that's what you have to be so shameless and so driven that you work so hard at whatever it is that you achieve. This is the formula for making money in this business. That's the formula for making money. You want to make $1 million a year? I mean, don't you think this is the type of stuff that you have to think about? 1,200 cold and 600 warm. But this can be achieved by having 10 people make 120 calls a day. This can be achieved by having 5 people make 240 calls a day. This can be achieved by having 10 people talk to 60 people a day. 5 people talk to 120 people a day. 4 people talking to 160 people a day. I mean, this is millionaire math right here. This is how you become successful. You want to run an office, you want to run an office, you want to run an office, this is what you have to do. So you might be like, all right, slow down. Cool. I'm just giving you different levels of success. This should be your first 2 goals are right here and right here. If you've never made 6 figures, this is what I would do every single day. These are calls. Or sorry, contacts, right? These are contacts. If you've never made, if you've made 100 and something but never really broke through, and if you did it once, but you never did it multiple times, what do we used to say, babe? If you do it once, you're lucky. If you do it twice, you probably you're on to something. But if you do it 3 times, you know what you're doing. If you've never done it before, that's where your first goal is. And I would be very selfish in your time. I would be very selfish in your time, which when I say selfish in your time, I really mean this. Really, really focused. Mom calls, dad calls, sister calls. Hey, I'm at work. Is everything okay? All right, love you. Call you later. I call my mom when I walk home from work. I don't sit there and talk to her. I don't sit there and I don't do that. I do it while I'm doing other stuff. That's when I call back my friends and family. I'm so focused, and they know that I'm focused. My friends know that I might not call them back for a couple days, and they don't get mad at me for it. I've already told them. You might have to sit down with your family and say, hey, I want to do this, and I'm going to do this, so if you call me, I might not be available. You have to be willing to do that. I've done that multiple times in my life. And I've gotten emails from my mom. All you care about is money. How could you not care about doing things with your friends? I just saw a video of your friend Rio. He's going out. He looks like he's having so much fun. Why are you at home? Yo, I'm trying to become a billionaire, Mom. Please stop. This isn't for me. I don't care. Josh, you're being selfish. All you care about is what you're doing. Why don't you come home to see with the family too much? That doesn't make me money. Money's not everything, Josh. No, but lack of money is not everything either. You have to be focused. You have to be focused. You have to tell your friends have to start realizing that you're no longer available, that your success is more important than them. My best friend in the world, I have one friend, John, from high school. One person that I talk to. And he's coming down next week, and he knows I'm working. He's just gonna go to the pool at my building. And we'll go out to dinner on Sunday night. And we'll go out to dinner maybe on Thursday. Thursday we're going to the Heat Sixers game. And the rest of it is he's just on vacation at my house. He doesn't expect me to hang out with him. He doesn't expect me to do anything. I have 3 friends from college. Blake, Ryan, and Jack. I see them once a year. When do I see them? At Ultra. Once a year. I don't hang out with them at all otherwise. I don't see them otherwise. I'll FaceTime them once every couple months. That's the life that I live. It's just, that's the life that you have to commit to for a 5 to 10 year period of time. If you really want to be super successful.